For the first time this year, 10 of the 11 teams were on the same track for Shakedown Week. Find out who was there, who was not, who impressed, and who didn't, with one team even bringing a car some are saying is so advanced that everyone else will be copying it for 2027. There is so much to talk about, so hold on to that steering wheel as we discuss Shakedown Week 2026. Shakedown Week 2026 was a closed track session for the 11 Formula One teams. However, only 10 showed up, with Williams being the odd man out. This Showdown Week was agreed to by the teams to avoid the less than stellar performances that occurred during the first week of testing with the new ground effect cars. Porpoising, anyone? The beginning of the ground effect era also saw many teams battling an aerodynamic phenomenon whereby the car would get caught in a vicious cycle of alternating levels of downforce as airflow under the car would stall. This caused many cars to seemingly bounce down the straightaways, hence the term porpoising, which was nothing new. There were many accounts of the first generation of Formula One ground effect cars from the 1970s bouncing their front tires off the track during testing. So in order to avoid possible bad press as a result of both the new chassis and new powertrain regulations, the teams agreed to a closed preseason testing for a week in Barcelona starting on January 26. Each team could run for any 3 of the 5 days. It is also important to remember that because this was a closed practice, the exact number of laps and times may vary depending on the source. However, I have tried to use the generally accepted figures available for this video. Now, in no particular order, let's see how the teams did. Haas arrived at Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya with their VF26 and their new title sponsor Toyota Gazoo Racing after a successful 200-kilometer filming day at Fiorano with Ali Bierman behind the wheel. Bierman reported that the Ferrari-powered TGR Haas F1 team's VF26 felt nimble and more responsive than their previous car. On day one, Haas led the field in distance, completing 154 laps driven by Esteban Ocon. The team was seemingly focused on distance and data collection. By the end of the week, they had completed between 386 to 390 laps, although they suffered a more serious reliability issue on their second day of testing on Wednesday. On Friday, Ali Bierman recorded an impressive 118.423 lap time, the team's fastest of the shakedown. With 2 solid drivers and an impressive number of laps at Barcelona, Haas should be trading punches with the rest of the midfield this season. American newcomer Cadillac brought their 2026 entry to Spain along with the return of 2 popular drivers, Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Checo Perez, for Shakedown Week 2026. Backed by automotive giant General Motors and with the GM-developed power unit not expected until 2029, Cadillac will be powered by a Ferrari engine for the time being. Despite Formula One's 11th team having only 323 days to develop their 2026 entry, Cadillac still completed 164 laps, focusing mainly on addressing teething issues and reliability. Their fastest reported time was set by Valtteri Bottas, a 120.920. Considering how little time the team has had in Formula One, these numbers are nothing to sneeze at. I would only expect Cadillac F1 to improve over the season given GM's propensity for racing. Announced in 2022, Audi enters Formula One as a works team After acquiring the Swiss Sauber operation with stake F1 team Kick, Sauber drivers Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriele Bortoleto returning as part of new Audi Revolut F1 team. Unlike Cadillac, Audi has their own power unit for 2026. While the Audi Works team experienced some early technical setbacks with the R26 car, they still completed 240 laps, 140 of those on their second day. By Friday, reports indicated that Audi was putting up impressive numbers, with Nico setting a 119.870 and Gabrielle at 120.179. Long thought to be the favorite for 2026, Mercedes arrived in Barcelona with their W17 and returning drivers George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Riding the momentum of their dominance immediately after the start of the turbo hybrid era, Mercedes showed why they're favored going into 2026. Having completed 502 laps, the most of any team, Mercedes is leaving little doubt about their intentions this season. George Russell set the team's fastest time, 116.445, and Kimi delivered a respectable 117.081. With their trick variable compression ratio engine and the fact they supply power units to 3 other teams, Mercedes may very well be in P1 when the season starts. Red Bull came out swinging at Shakedown 2026, silencing critics who believed the Ford Red Bull powertrains unit would lag far behind Mercedes and Ferrari. Isaac Hadjar set a blistering fast time on day 1. However, he later spun the rear of the car into the barrier on Tuesday, keeping the RB22 off the track until the final day. Red Bull completed 303 laps with their in-house developed DM01 power unit, named in honor of Red Bull founder Dietrich Mateschitz. Due to Tuesday's weather and Hadjar's shunt, the team focused more on reliability and engine power settings than on lap times. Max Verstappen's reported best time was 117.586, and Isaac's best set Monday was 118.159. The Red Bull Junior team, the Visa Cash App Racing Bulls, VCARB, had a productive shakedown week with drivers Liam Lawson and rookie Arvid Lindblad. The two completed 319 laps using the Ford Red Bull Powertrain's DM01 unit, with Lindblad setting the team's fastest times 118.451. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc delivered 2 of the 4 fastest times of the week. Lewis set the fastest time overall with a blistering 116.348, edging out of his former Mercedes teammates Russell by a tenth. Leclerc was 0.3 back with a 116.653, the 4th fastest of the week. Ferrari was also impressive in mileage, completing 442 laps. The Tifosi may have a lot to cheer about in 2026. For 2026, and for the first time, BWT Alpine is no longer a works team, opting to use a Mercedes power unit. Given their turbo hybrid era struggles, I can't blame them. But why didn't someone else buy those assets? I'm looking at you, Cadillac. BWT Alpine completed the 4th most laps, 349. Returning drivers Franco Colapinto and Pierre Gasly set times of 119.150 and 119.754 respectively. The 2025 Constructors Champion McLaren and Drivers Champion Lando Norris arrived with the MCL 40, hoping to defend their title with teammate Oscar Piastri. Although McLaren didn't put the MCL 40 on track until Wednesday, Norris still recorded the 3rd fastest lap of the week, 116.594. Piastri's best was 117.446. As for mileage, McLaren trailed both Red Bull teams with 291 laps. Williams was the only no-show for Shakedown week. James Wells, we know that you and the team that gave us the FW14B and the red number 5 can do better. I, for once, was looking forward to seeing the fan-chosen camouflage livery on your 2026 entry. Last but certainly not least, from the mind of the legend who can visualize airflow with nothing more than his eyes, Aston Martin arrived with the AMR 26 on the second to last day of testing. Ditching the Mercedes power until 2026, the AMR 26 reunites Adrian Newey with Honda. Despite attending only the final 2 days, a two-time world champion and my favorite F1 crush, Fernando Alonso, set the team's best lap, 120.795. While many pundits have described the AMR 26 as a generation ahead of the field with many Newey design throwbacks, their 2026 success ultimately rests on Honda's shoulders. With only 65 laps completed, the fewest of any team, if I were Fernando, I'd be worried given his prior experiences with early-era Honda engines. Because 2026 marks the beginning of the new engine regulations, this Shakedown week was also an opportunity for engine manufacturers to collect invaluable data. As such, distance, that is, number of laps, is more important than outright lap time. Because engine manufacturers can supply multiple teams, Audi and Honda unsurprisingly had the fewest laps. Mercedes, supplying 3 teams plus their works team, had the most. Here is how the engine manufacturers stacked up. Honda, Aston Martin, 65 laps. Audi Revolut F1 team, 240 laps. Ford Red Bull Powertrains, Red Bull and V-Carb, 622 laps. Ferrari, Haas and Cadillac, 992 laps. Mercedes, McLaren, Alpine and Williams, 1,142 laps. That's a total of 3,061 laps for Shakedown Week 2026. But one number really stands out, the Mercedes power units across just the 3 cars that participated completed mileage equivalent to 17 Grand Prix. Not only is that insane, but this year's Shakedown Week is vastly different from the early tests at the start of the turbo hybrid era. The most important thing to remember is that Shakedown Week is still pre-season testing. While some things can be inferred, it should not be used to predict the season order. Because the test is closed, there's still so much we don't know, like what power settings the teams used. Until the grid arrives in Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix, the pecking order is anyone's guess. Tell me who you think will take pole in Australia in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, I'll see you on the track.